Are you listening to us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or any other platform where you can leave a rate or review? Do you like what we're doing? If the answer to all of that is yes, please consider quickly giving us a 5-star rate. And if you wouldn't mind leaving us a nice review, we greatly appreciate that as well. Okay, let's do this.
Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 321 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 49 of A Dance with Dragons, which is Jon 10.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Well, then we are going to spoil things for you. Regardless, hopefully we'll provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background compared to the television show, indulge a little pedantry and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes that provide additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. It was a beautiful day today.
It was a nice day, yes. I sort of indicative of my life, I only discovered it was a nice day when I went to PT.
and once you got there,
then I was really sweating because he was hurting me a lot today.
So the Steelers played the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is the football team, NFL team that I obviously support, being a Pittsburgher by birth and being raised there. And they played a big game against one of our most hated rivals, the Baltimore Ravens.
Could I interject? This is very exciting to me because I have no idea how this game went.
Oh, well, okay.
This is like live sport for me right now.
Well, the game the game got moved to the Sunday night slot, the very last game of the regular season of the NFL, because whoever won that game was going to win our division, which is the AFC North, and go on to the playoffs. The loser is going to be out. So, of course, it got flexed to the night game, which anyone over a certain age groans at because we don't want to be worried and stressed. And
plus, night games go till very late. They're way past my bedtime. Good God.
Exactly. So it was a very intense game, and it came down to this wild fourth quarter finish where both teams were scoring touchdowns back and forth, and forth. And we scored to go up by what should have likely been 3 points with 55 seconds left. But our kicker, who is phenomenal, missed the extra point. He hadn't missed an extra point since 2022.
Oh my God.
So
not the right time for that.
No, it wasn't. It was ruled a block ultimately, but I've watched that play 20 times and I just don't see how it was blocked. Anyway, so the Ravens had 55 seconds and 3 timeouts, which is an eternity.
Well, especially when a field goal will win it for you.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And kickers are kicking from so far out these days.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So and then on the ensuing kickoff to give Baltimore the ball back, they return it almost to midfield.
Oh God.
So I'm
practically in field goal range.
Yes,
already.
Exactly. They need about 10 yards and they're in field goal range. So I'm already dejected. But we hold them. We get to 4th and 7. You only get 4 downs to get a first down. So they had 4th and 7, and they end up picking up like a 20-some yard first down on 4th and 7 in a contested catch. The tight end went up for it. 2 Steelers were there, and he managed to come down with it. And I was so angry and so frustrated. I just grabbed the remote and turned it off because they were just going to wind the clock down and kick the game-winning field goal, right?
Kick the winning field goal, right.
So I turn it off, and I'm so mad at myself for getting sucked in and actually thinking that, we might win this game. And I'm checking the locks in the house, before going to bed. And one of my friends, him, Sean, good mutual friend. He is also a Steelers fan. He texts me and said, "Oh my God, I can't believe he missed it." And I'm like, what? So I run back over to the TV, turn it on, and of course, it's live. So I'm seeing the Steelers celebrate, and I'm like, what's happening? What happened? So luckily, I have the ability to rewind it.
Rewind, okay.
I rewound it, and the poor kid, he's a rookie, like early 20s kid probably, missed a 44-yard field goal, which these days is basically like kicking an extra point. It's not that much further than kicking an extra point. So I missed what some are. I missed the pinnacle moment of what some are calling the greatest regular season game in NFL history.
Wow!
Because of no one had ever kicked a kick that young man was kicking for to the last play of the NFL season to go to
decide
the playoffs.
Which team wins? Yeah, to the playoffs. Yeah.
Yes. And his coach got fired the next day. He'd been there for 18 years. So
the funny thing is, the one thing I did know about the game was that Harbaugh got fired after 18 years as the Baltimore Ravens coach. So I was like, I think you might have turned the TV off too soon here, Mackelly.
I did.
Plus, you're telling the story. I can't imagine you'd be telling this story if the Steelers lost. You'd summarize it a lot quicker for the Steelers loss.
So I missed it. I missed the kick. I would do it again if it meant that the same result.
If you'd been watching. That's straight down the middle.
He'd have drilled it right through.
Yeah. Hey, if you'd been watching, he would have missed by more, but the holding penalty would have given them a first down.
Yes, exactly. That would be the only way that could have been worse. Is missing it, and there'd be a penalty. So I'm doing well. When that happened, when I thought they'd lost, my hands were jittery, and I thought, how am I supposed to go to sleep now? It was like 11:45, and I got to go find a way to go to sleep. And then, after I saw that we won, it was much easier to...
Was it? I thought it might actually get harder, because it'd be like, oh my God, we won,
Well, yeah, Ethan called literally screaming, and we just basically screamed at each other for several minutes. So I'm doing okay because of that specific moment that I missed. But what do you do?
Well, yeah, again, you did it for the team.
I did.
You took one for the team there. I don't have anything as exciting. I mean, my news is future news. Next time we meet, I will be an empty nester.
Oh my goodness!
No, Lucas moves out at the weekend.
Wow, how you feeling about that?
I'm good. I mean, he's ready. We're ready. It's gonna be a good thing for him. But yeah. So he's got a place in a dorm at the university he's going to, and this is very exciting for him because he's an only child. He's not used to sort of cohabiting with people his own age,
Oh, right.
So it's going to be a bit of a shock to the system.
Yes.
Especially when he discovered, he'd be sharing a room. There'd be another kid in the room with him, and then he saw the pictures of the room, and he was like, I don't see the bathroom. I'm like, well, the bathroom is go out of the door of that room and down the hallway and then across, and that's where the bathroom is with the 6 toilets and the 5 showers.
Right.
And he's like, wait, what?
Wait a second now. That doesn't add up.
He's like, I have to schlep across down the hallway to get a shower. He's like, you can see he's just like, it has never occurred to him that that's what it was going to be like. And he was like, I'm going to get trench foot.
Don't worry, we'll buy you some shower slippers and you'll be fine.
This cracked me up when he said, I'm going to get trench foot.
I never lived in a dorm. My dad was a professor at the university that I went to, so I claimed that I was living at home, and I actually lived in a house off campus with a bunch of other guys. That had its own issues.
Yeah.
But both of my kids have been in that dorm situation that you just explained there, and, they survived. Stacy did it. She survived.
Yeah, actually, Carson and I never lived in a dorm either. I think, I don't know exactly what Carson did, but I got university housing, but there were more freshmen than there were dorm rooms. So they had sort of houses. Yeah. So I was in a house with like 7 other guys. Okay. I think I've told you the funny sort of like split between the people in my house. I think I've told you this before. most of us were typical British students, very little money, and we clubbed together to buy a £55 sack of potatoes because we discovered that was the cheapest calories you could get. Like, this thing was huge. We dragged that thing in there, and we had like baked potatoes for like a month, so it kept us alive, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But the day that we bought the baked potatoes, the one guy in the house who wasn't suffering like the rest of us, he had a sunbed delivered.
What?
Do you call it a sunbed or do you call it a tanning bed? Was that better to say tanning bed?
I think either option works.
We'll stick with that then. So we're there dragging in this sack, and then these two burly guys come up with a tanning bed and lay it in his room. We're like, you're paying more of the bill than we are.
So one of these things was not like the other.
Exactly. Well, anyway, let's get down to business. How did we leave Jon Snow? Well, last time we visited the wall, Simon pushed the down arrow and moved the text off screen.
Let's try that again then.
Leaving him with a lot to do off the cuff.
The first outtake of 2026.
Yeah. Well, last time we visited the wall, Jon was rolling out the red carpet to Queen Selyse, Princess Shireen, and co. It was frosty, not just the weather. He was making deals with the Iron Bank of Bravos to keep the Night's Watch going through the winter. And lastly, he was getting reunited with his distant cousin, Alys Karstark, who'd fled Carhall to avoid marrying her uncle in what was clearly a power grab by Cregan and Arnulf Karstark. Jon was willing to help, clearly likes Alys, but couldn't help noticing that Melisandre's vision had missed its mark. Remember, she'd promised that it was going to be Arya coming to war.
Distant cousin and sister are not quite the same thing.
Not quite, no. Mackelly, why don't we give a summary of this one?
All right. Well, Melisandre pontificates over a trench of flames that gutters against a frigid easterly wind. It's the usual night, dark, terrors, etc., etc. But wait! It's all for a wedding.
Oh, lovely. I do get excited by a wedding. I always feel like we should throw rice or something.
Right. Jon pushes back his hood. The wind is, in Old Nan's words, the breath of the ice dragon. Alys, on Jon's arm, worries that snow at a wedding portends a cold marriage. Jon reckons Stannis and Selyse, the latter in attendance, must have married in a blizzard then. The queen looks on with zealous reverence, but her men don't all seem to share her fervor. There's yawning, drunkenness, pawing women. Jon begins to see that Stannis may have handpicked the men he didn't want to come with him.
Melisandre's back is to the wall. She's faced across the burning ditch by the betrothed. I know you're dying to know who the groom is, aren't you? Not long now, promise. Behind the couple is the royal party, including Shireen, Patchface, and Sir Axel Florent. Not many men of the Night's Watch. Most, of course, are on duty or sleeping or just disinterested. But Jon did kind of expect his executive leadership team, but all of them are boycotting. The ceremony, overlong for the conditions, crescendos when Melisandre's arms raised, the fire swirling up to battle and merge with the falling snow, a prayer for Stannis, and she's ready to marry the pair.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. Jon hands over Alys, checks that she's okay and not scared. She smiles, much like Arya, and says, "Let him be scared of me." Satin has found some lace for her hair, and the snow has created a frosty crown. Jon squeezes her hand and calls her Winter's Lady. Sigorn, the Magnar of Thenn, receives her.
I didn't see that coming.
He's dressed for battle, and his wide eyes betray the youth that his receding hairline masks. They exchange vows about keeping each other warm, which does seem like the most important element of such a pact. They hold hands and jump over the fire, and it's done. Let no man put asunder that which fire has joined.
Jon worries about those who would see this marriage put asunder. Cregan Karstark arrived a day after Alys with soldiers, huntsmen and dogs. Jon met them south of Molestown to prevent any chance of guest rights. He'd seen them escorted to the ice cells. The wedding guests repair within to some mulled wine. Jon holds back with the Queen and Melisandre. The path shoveling is reaching a critical point, and the wormways underground are seeing more and more traffic. Selyse reckons that she and Stannis should renew their vows in a similar fashion, and then she would provide more children. Jon bites back a retort about other missing elements, if you know what I mean.
Jon actually wants to talk to Melisandre, so he offers to have Satin accompany the Queen. But Sir Malgorn doesn't like that and escorts Her Majesty himself, with Patchface casting his usual creepy shadow. Melisandre describes the fool as dangerous. He keeps popping up in her visions with skulls about him. She sees fools but no Stannis. When she looks for Stannis, all she sees is snow. Ravens and bankers have been dispatched to Stannis with news of Arnulf Karstark's treachery, but Jon is skeptical that he'll be found. Would Melisandre know if he was dead? Melisandre is adamant that the king lives.
What about Mance? Again, she only sees snow. Jon's increasingly deflated over Melisandre's abilities. She reiterates that she sees him and daggers, and that he must keep Ghost close. She was wrong about Arya, but she argues that the vision was true. It was her mistake that made it wrong. But Jon wonders if she did know and tells lies for her own agenda. Jon takes his leave and visits Cregan Karstark in the ice cells. He's been given one of the larger ones and enough furs to keep him alive. Cregan claims guest rights, but Jon points out that Alys is a guest, whereas Cregan is a prisoner. Jon announces the wedding. Karstark says she was promised to him, but Jon retorts that the promise was made by Cregan's father Arnulf, who's a castellan and has no right to broker such a match.
Jon dictates the line of succession, which all leads to Alys, therefore the Magnar. Cregan is hateful about wildlings. He thinks that should the newlyweds return to Karhold, the Magnar will be killed. But Jon thinks Alys is right, that Karhold will open its gates to her, Sigorn, and the Thenns. Cregan could avoid bloodshed by telling his kin to side with Alys. Those who betray her can take the black, including him. Never, is his reply. Jon leaves him with this thought. If he doesn't change his mind, then Stannis will eventually return, and he won't hesitate to execute Cregan. With that, Jon heads to the feast. There's music from various free folk and the men of the Night's Watch. Hobb has done well with the food, not regal, but nourishing and plentiful.
Old Flint and the Nori have come for the wedding, with wet nurses for Monster, as Val dubbed the baby, who is thriving. Dancing commences. Because of the gender disparity, every serving girl is pressed into dancing. It's all mostly good-natured, but Sir Patrick of King's Mountain looks to be spoiling for a fight. Alys asks Jon for a dance, but he tells her to dance with Sigorn, who clearly doesn't know how. Jon tells Alys of the Thenns and how they, unlike most free folk, do follow inheritance rules like the Seven Kingdoms. He in turn asks about how Karhold is set for the winter. She's worried. The war left not enough able bodies to bring in the harvest. She's convinced that many will die.
Jon recommends that she sends their old men and any young boys to the wall. They'll be fed and won't further deplete the Karhold stores. She assures him Karhold remembers. A bird arrives. The ships have sailed for Hardhome. One troubling aspect is that Pike left Sir Glendon Hewitt in charge at Eastwatch, a friend to Alliser Thorne, but not to Jon. Jon next speaks with Axel Florent, who continues to push for Val. Jon is dispirited by the conversation. She's not a princess and not his to give. Florent's words are vile, and Jon voices that he pities the queen to have such a hand.
Florent flares that it is clear that Jon wants his father's seat and intends to marry the princess to push his claim. Jon takes his leave as a horn sounds. As always, the wall freezes, awaiting a second blast. The second blast does fill the cellar. Now everyone really holds their breath. but there's no third blast, so it's wildlings. Jon thinks that Val has returned with Tormund at last.
Well, so we discussed this last week, whether or not we're officially past a feast for crows in the order of this story.
Yeah.
And, well, one thing to note is Jon has now pulled alongside Tyrion for the first to hit 10 POVs.
10, yeah.
I think Tyrion's was maybe last time. And
but what's making you ask the question specifically about Feast for Crows? Is there something here that relates to an event in Feast for Crows?
Well, so the last chapter last week was a Jaime chapter.
Uh-huh.
And we advanced from the previous Jaime and Brienne chapters in A Feast for Crows. And I went and looked. The Brienne chapter was the fourth from the last in A Feast for Crows, her last chapter.
Okay.
And the last Jaime chapter was the next to last chapter in A Feast for Crows. So I went and did a quick scan of the Boiled Leather reading breakdown, which is, reading Feast for Crows and Dance with Dragons together, kind of. And
reading them like one should drive when a lane is closing up ahead.
Yes, right. So we're told.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, according to Boiled Leather, which is not a definitive source, that since the chapter The Blind Girl, which was the Arya chapter 45 in this book, we have been past A Feast for Crows. That was the last.
Oh.
The chapter before that in the Boiled Leather reading order was the last Sam chapter, which was the last chapter of A Feast for Crows.
So there's a lot more chapters in A Dance with Dragons.
Yes, there's 30 more.
However
maybe,
many we've got left.
Like
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, right. I think there were 46 chapters or so in Feast, something along those lines.
Did George Martin ever push the Boiled Leather read as a thing, or was it just fans?
Yeah, I think it's fandom. I don't know if Martin's ever commented on it. Someone may have asked him, "What do you think about that?" But
because of course, if he never intended it, then there's no way to infer anything from it.
Right? Yeah. As I understand it, it was a fan's idea.
Yeah.
That, look how well these line up if you read them in this
right,
order.
And that's the thing. If they were lining up at chapters 1 and 2 of each book, that would be one thing. But if they're lining up at chapter 49, 50, that's quite coincidental and actually gives it some credence.
Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
Interesting. So one thing actually that struck me just as we were going through the summary was, you remember Lyanna Mormont in the show?
Yes. Little Lyanna.
I think some of Alys Karstark was rolled into that character.
I could see that.
I think she was, Carhold remembers. I can kind of hear her saying
Bear Island.
Bear Island remembers kind of thing.
Right.
Yes, I can imagine her saying that. Or actually, I remember what she said. She said the North remembers is what she said.
Okay, right.
But yeah, I just as we were going through that, I was like, she's somewhat the inspiration for the Lyanna Karstark character in the TV show, who was great. I mean, she stole every scene she was in.
Absolutely.
When she gave the speech where she said the North remembers, it was like I was on my feet. I was like, come on, you go, girl.
I'll fight for you.
Exactly. From the comfort of my couch.
Oh, right, of course. Yes.
But I wondered about this. Do you think Alys wanted this? I mean, obviously, she didn't rush off here to marry Sigorn, the Magnar of Thenn.
Right. Yeah.
She rushed off here to avoid being forced into a marriage she didn't want.
Right.
And Jon's escape plan is to marry someone else who she doesn't know.
Yeah. Do I think, given her own choices, she would have done this? No, probably not. I think that's pretty safe to assume. Do I think she was willing to go along with this plan to prevent the other option?
Yeah.
Yeah, she seems okay with it. And I mean, when you look at Westeros, that's what highborn daughters knew
are expected to do. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why she's kind of like a shadow of Arya. She reminds Jon of Arya at various points, but Arya would balk at this. Arya would run away from a wedding she didn't want.
Right.
But if she was here, she would not be doing this. She'd be like, no, that's not for me.
Agreed. Yeah.
So she's not that similar to Arya, I think, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah, that is very true. I completely agree. That's how these two young ladies differ. But this is... So she mentioned in the chapter when she showed up, I think it was the chapter she showed up at Castle Black, that her father promised her that he would find a marriage for her. But we know, because we were there, that after Jaime killed Rickard's sons, that he had offered his daughter's hand in marriage to anyone who brought him the head of Jaime Lannister. So, compared to that alternative, again, this is probably preferable. At least the Magnar, is someone who she can physically see and say, yes, okay, get to know him, okay, I will marry him, possibly. We missed all those details.
Yeah. Thinking about this, the sort of comparison between Alys and Arya, it did make me wonder is if in some ways George Martin is throwing up an alternative future for Arya to make us think about that. Say, this is what Arya could have done. Arya is the kind of person who would run away from a wedding, but she's run away she's really run away. She's not run away to fall into the inevitable trap of, like you said, any highborn lady of the Seven Kingdoms is eventually going to be married off against, not necessarily against her will, but not by her choice,
right?
To cause advantage to her family. And that Arya would never have settled for that. But the thing is, Arya's going to be so much more. Arya's going to be... She's got... The world is her oyster, what she's learning. Yeah. But the one thing I'll say from this is Alys Karstark looks like she's going to be happy.
It does. I mean, it's her wedding day, and she's not unhappy, which is a good start. Time will tell. Sigorn seems sweet and caring for his new bride. Again, time will tell how that holds or not. But yes, she does seem...
Yeah.
When Jon asks her, "Are you ready?" she says, "Oh, yes, I am ready." Like, she is, let's do this.
It's that sort of age-old thing between sort of like the potential someone has versus the comfort and safety of accepting something, something less than that potential,
Yeah.
And Arya is all in on maximizing everything, I mean, she could marry someone eventually, but by the time she marries that person, she'll have a very short list of people that she still wants to kill, I would imagine.
I think that list would trump her list of suitors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I got a couple of priority items before we get married, just so you know. But it just so happens that your father is on that list. So why don't we have a wedding? I do think it's a slightly interesting choice to curry favour with the Queen and Melisandre by having them married in the faith of R'hllor.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah, and I wonder if Jon had a say, or if Selyse insisted that Melisandre do it.
Well, but I mean, Selyse did not choose that a lady of a powerful house of the North should marry Sigorn. She did not choose that. That's all Jon right there.
Jon said this marriage was of his doing, so yes, but you'd think, according to, now, again, source matters here, because Axel Florent, we'll get to him when we get to him, but there's certainly some issues there. But he tells Jon that the Queen is happy about this union.
Yeah.
So maybe she signed off on it, but maybe part of it was, I'll sign off on it, but Melisandre is going to do the ceremony, and you're going to be married in the light. They're going to be married in the light of R'hllor.
Right. So maybe that's it. It's a compromise. Like Jon gets to choose the groom, but they get to choose the religion of it. Yeah. The one thing is, of course, is it lowers Jon's stock even further with the people on the wall, the men of the Night's Watch, who are in the faith of the Seven, which is most of them, of course.
Yeah.
It's a subset that worship the old gods, and a vanishingly small slice who care about R'hllor.
Right. And this, you could look at this as the growing strength of R'hllor and Westeros, but again, there might not have been a choice in the matter. And one thing we know about Westeros over the history is that they don't bend easily when it comes to the faith. Faith rather. Aegon the Conqueror wisely embraced the faith when he set out to conquer the realm. In fact, the date of his reign began the day he was anointed. So even he, with his dragons, thought, I need to appease the faith. And the Targaryens, with their dragons, fought with the faith of the Seven for years on the incest issue before finally reaching a settlement. So the faith is not something you mess with lightly here in the Seven Kingdoms. And, Stannis, if he can survive this storm that he's in, he's going to get the backing of the Iron Bank if they can ever actually track him down. Coupled with Cersei's blunders, could lead him to the Iron Throne. But if you try and force R'hllor on the realm, it could be a short-lived peace, or before you're at war once again. So you struggle to get the support of the pious lords if you try and force this issue.
I wonder if Melisandre has convinced Stannis that by siding with her and R'hllor, he will win some victory which will convince the other religions of R'hllor's primacy. That basically they will defeat the nameless dread from the north, and in so doing, everyone will bend their knee and say, you know what, these Seven never did anything for me, but that guy just saved me.
Yeah, that very well might be what she is.
Because you're absolutely right.
Thinking.
Strategically, it's not a great idea,
No, it's not. But the issue will come with how many people will witness whatever the battle is if it happens at the Wall, and most of the realm is thousands of leagues away.
That's a good point. Maybe Melisandre has to let them in, let them get south of the neck, and then unleash Azor Ahai on them.
Yeah. Let them get as far as the Blackwater, and then push them back.
Another interesting strategic choice here is the choice of husband. At first, I was surprised. I mean, because we did it, but the chapter also did it. It leaves you guessing who the husband's going to be for quite a while in the chapter.
It didn't even dawn on me until you put it in the summary, because I've known for so long who
it was. Yeah,
the suitor was, that I was like, until you pointed it out, I was like, oh yeah, they did. Yeah. They did leave you hanging there for a bit. Mm-hmm. Anyway, continue.
Yeah, but then I realized that, for a couple of reasons. One is the reason that Jon mentions to her, which is that the Thenns, abnormally for the free folk, do have inheritance laws. So that's one factor, because that helps, because if they don't, then if she does take Carhold and they have children, the free folk might be like, well, whoever's strongest gets to take over when we've died, but no, that's not how we work down here. So the Magnar is a good idea for that reason. But the other one is that he commands 200 men. Yeah, Alys needs help here. She needs help winning this back. And 200 men armed to the teeth is, and seasoned fighters. I'm not saying they could besiege Carhold and win it, but they can certainly arrive looking like people who belong, looking like people who could make a real difference. And so I think strategically it's the right choice, but it was just surprising when his name was first mentioned in the chapter.
Yeah, that all makes it makes sense why he was chosen. You know, you make a lot of good points.
Yeah.
And speaking of the Magnar, Sigorn, and now his new wife, Jon kind of describes the house sigil of House Thenn, which is brand new house. And it's very similar to the Karstarks. He describes it as a bronze disc on a field of white surrounded by crimson. And the Karstark sigil is a white a sunburst. And Jon, he tells us in his thoughts that you can see the Karstark sunburst if you care to look.
Right.
And so the Karstark sigil is a white sunburst on a black field. And at least according to a Wiki of Ice and Fire, where they show an image of each, they're basically identical except for color scheme.
Right.
The new House Thenn sigil has the bronze, because, as he tells Alys, unlike most free folk, the Thenns actually mine themselves bronze and copper to make their own weapons and armor. And then the crimson flames, obviously a nod here to R'hllor, and the white field that it's on are the frozen lands of Thenn high up in the Frostfangs. So he just told his stewards come up with something good, and they did. He's pretty pleased with what they come up with here.
Yeah, and that's important because, I mean, assuming that they go to Karhold and they rule in Karhold, you need that to eventually sort of merge back into one. And one of these things is 5 minutes old and the other one is, thousands of years old. Let's make sure we're not deviating too far from the thousands of year old one.
Excellent point.
So yeah, I mean, the other reason that he's a good choice is for the lack of choice, because the alternatives would be another wildling chieftain, but there's a much less incentive. The Thenns are a tighter knit group than most of the free folk groups. Yeah. And so if you're a wildling chieftain and you marry some hottie from south of the wall, convincing your people to come and fight for them is like, wait a minute, why are we doing that? We came south of the wall to protect ourselves from what's going on north of the wall, not to go fight a battle against, between two houses here. We don't care.
Right.
Why are we not even two houses, it's one house fighting itself.
Right. Yeah, I guess another option would have been one of Stannis' knights, like Sir Patrick wanted.
Right. But from Jon's perspective, that's another person who wouldn't go and fight for Karhold.
Right. First of all, that person would have no army to go and fight with. It would be an army of one, or very small at least.
And they also might feel committed still to Selyse and Stannis' cause, first and foremost. That might be their priority. Whereas Sigurd doesn't care about that one iota,
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jon takes stock of who in the Night's Watch is present and who's not, and basically, his leadership council, Marsh, Yarwick, Septon Celador. Septon Celador does show his face. We didn't mention this. He looks out, sees the sort of pagan ritual that's going on, and drunkenly heads back into the Sept. Again, that's the one argument I would have said for maybe doing this in the Faith of the Seven, is to sort of like get some favor back with Septon Celador, who is probably one of your weaker enemies but he does complete the group of enemies, your entire council doesn't like you. You could have chipped away at it just a little bit here.
Right. And maybe the other two would have been more supportive had they gone with the Faith of the Seven. And it's just one more decision for them to disagree with Jon on. And another side effect of this decision is that I'm sure plenty of stores were used for the wedding feast, which I can't imagine Marsh condones. I'm sure Jon got an earful from Marsh about that.
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons Jon sort of avoided the feast for as long as he did, because he didn't want to be seen gorging on all this food.
Yeah, and so Melisandre tells him that she sees Jon in the flames every time she looks, and that the daggers in the dark are getting more threatening. And she told Jon that it's not his enemies that are the concern. It's those who smile at your face that are the concern. And it makes you wonder, as we're seeing his council all having more and more issues with him, could this lead to some sort of internal mutiny in the Night's Watch? At first glance, you don't really get that idea from taking any of the three council. I mean, they're not actually council members, but they're the leaders of the other groups.
Yeah.
And then Sept and Celador. But if they're passionate enough about their feelings and that Jon is leading them in a direction they don't agree with, I can't say it's not possible. We heard Hobb. Jon recounts to us that Three-Fingered Hobb griped to Jon about he came here to kill wildlings, not feed them. So even the rank and file are noticing this isn't what they signed up for.
Yeah. You know what Sept and Celador's boxing name is? It's self-concealing. Self-concealing Celador. I just made that up. I'm so stupid. That's still one of my favorite bits of pedantry of all time. It's so good. It's so perfect. I will say it's a teeny tiny bit harsh of Jon to judge Stannis and Selyse's marriage.
Yeah.
He's never actually seen them together. They may actually be the sweetest, most loving couple imaginable. It's hard to imagine, but he hasn't got any contradictory evidence,
Yeah, he's going off of rumor, and that's never a good thing.
Well, he's going off rumor and the fact he's met them both individually.
Yes, true. That is true,
and nothing in their personalities makes the rumor sound not true.
Right. You wouldn't meet them both and be like, you know what? I don't buy that at all. They're both so warm and sweet. There's no way they don't have a loving, happy, healthy marriage. But another thing that I take a little bit of I question. Like, forgive me for questioning Jon's logic here. But when Melisandre talks about Jon, the dangers getting very close to Jon, and Jon discounts her because she got the Arya and Alys situation confused, she got all the details right except for who the actual girl was. To me, personally, that's close enough to heed her warnings.
Right, I agree, but I do take his point. I do agree with you, because she's never met Arya Stark. Right. She knows that Jon is looking for Arya Stark, and she sees a girl broadly the right age fleeing to the wall. It's a good chance it was her. But
they probably have some similar looks too.
Similar looks. They have the North look.
Yeah.
But I will say that Jon makes a valid point that Melisandre has no motivation whatsoever to be truthful to him.
Yeah,
she can say whatever she wants. She could make stuff up. I didn't even bother looking in the flames last night, but I'm going to tell him what I want him to hear.
Yeah, well, we've been in her head, and we know she wants desperately to convince Jon to trust and believe in her, but Jon's not in her head. He doesn't know that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Knowing what I know, I think she genuinely thought that was Arya Stark and she was trying to help. And she was mistaken. But I totally understand Jon's... She manipulated me into looking for this girl. For whatever reason it might be.
Yeah. Although the fact that all the details were correct would cause you to think, well, maybe I should at least pay attention to the things she's prophesizing.
I would not discount her power, but I would, like Jon, think to myself, I'm taking everything she says with a pinch of salt, because she can say whatever she wants.
Yeah, I guess there could be motivation for why she would be trying to get Jon to be wary of people that he considers brothers and friends. There could be some motivation. We don't know what that would be, but Jon, he doesn't know what that is either, but he can't discount that it's impossible, I guess.
Yeah, that's the one thing. In this instance, it doesn't seem like there's any sort of piece in play that would make her going, I look very carefully in these flames, and that is clearly Alys Karstark, who I also haven't met, fleeing to the wall. But Jon won't do anything unless I tell him it's Arya? That's not true. He totally would. He would move heaven and earth for Alys Karstark, just like he would for Arya. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of nice that we have both perspectives, and that they both make sense in isolation from one another, even though there's not a great. If they could perfectly mind meld, Jon would see, okay, she's trying her best. She's seeing what she's seeing, and she's passing it on as best she can.
Yeah. In an ideal world, which they don't live in.
No, true enough.
But while we're headed to the feast...
Yes. Tell me about Patchface, because I don't like to think about Patchface, so I want you to cover this so I don't have nightmares.
He does kind of creep you out, doesn't he? So, right before they head off to the feast, and Melisandre
especially now I know that he's
fires.
an apostle of the drowned god. No, that's a spoiler, isn't it?
Well, we don't know. We don't know who he is yet, really. But, before they go their separate ways with Melisandre, we get another... what appears to be Patchface rambling, but Melisandre doesn't like it and speaks up about not liking it. She doesn't comment on what he says. She comments on him generally. But this rambling that Patchface throws out there is, under the sea, the mermen feast on starfish soup, and all the serving men are crabs. And so there's a couple things here. One, we don't know Selyse that well, but we're getting to know her a little bit. Mm-hmm. And I find it hard to imagine how she suffers this literal fool around her, because she doesn't seem like the kind of person that would tolerate that very well. Now, I know he's a best friend of her daughter's, but I'm surprised how often he is in her, at least hearing and, near enough.
Yeah, I made an interesting comparison. Well, if you'll allow me a little self-aggrandizement, I made an interesting comparison of last time we talked about Selyse, about the way her character treated Shireen, but I can't remember which way round it was.
She's sweeter here than she is.
She's sweeter to Shireen here, yes. So there you go. That does make sense then, that she might tolerate Patchface for Shireen. But I do, in principle, agree with what you're saying. She doesn't seem like the sort of person who would tolerate that kind of nonsense.
Right. Just every time he does some silly antic, I think, why is Selyse putting up with this? Make him stay somewhere else and let Shireen go be by him when she's done with her. But the bigger question is, do we make anything of this rambling? Because a lot in the fandom, a lot of people believe that he is actually prophesizing when he makes these random statements. And why does he in general offend Melisandre so much? So, here are some fan theories about this particular line.
It would, just before you get onto that, it would be kind of funny if you hung around with Melisandre for long enough, and she's always this this is an inappropriate metaphor, but an ice maiden. She's sort of haughty and sort of completely in charge, and nothing ever bothers her apart from every word out of Patchface's mouth. It's what is wrong with you? He's a rambling... Get him away from me! Get that guy away from me!
He freaks me out.
So
that would be something.
Give me some theories.
Okay. So there's the literal interpretation that
it's a recipe for bouillabaisse.
Under the sea, the mermen feast on starfish soup. So the literal interpretation is that the Manderleys are the mermen. And we're taking sigils here. The starfish soup, there is a house in the Vale called House Rothermont that has a sigil that is a starfish. And then the serving men are all crabs. We've got two that I can think of, two crab sigils. The Celtigars, who are in the Gullet, and House Borel, who Davos met in Sisterton.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty hard to make any useful prophecy out of that. I mean, Davos did interact with Godric Burrell. We know Wyman Manderley is up to some things, but for the most part, that feels as much gibberish as Patchface's initial statement. But what if we change the starfish to the flayed man sigil of House Bolton?
Go on.
That changes things a bit.
Looks
here.
a little bit like a starfish.
Yeah.
To someone who's a little bit under the sea obsessed.
Right. He's seeing starfish and crabs everywhere he looks. So the Manderleys are feasting on the Boltons, that would mean. And the serving men are crabs. So now we have to decipher this crabs part. Now,
ideally, that wouldn't be the phrase. That wouldn't be the Boltons whose sigil looked a little bit like a starfish, but the phrase, because they're literally feasting on the phrase.
Yes, that would have been better. That would have been. Had that been the case, I think we would have nailed this. But what if the serving men are actually crabs, not literal crabs?
Okay.
But like the flayed men, there's something similar. Or at least look something similar. You can't say a flayed man and a starfish are similar, but you're taking my drift here.
What looks like a crab?
What about a lobster? Yes.
Lobster.
Now, whose sigil is a lobster?
Oh, come on.
I will tell you, because we don't know this yet, really.
Oh.
But the House Magnar of Skagos, their sigil is a lobster. And we know that Davos has been sent off to return Rickon from Skagos, and Wyman Manderley has promised that if he does that, if Davos is successful in returning Rickon, Wyman and the Manderleys will back Stannis, and all this leads to possibly the Manderleys overthrowing the Boltons in Winterfell. So there you've got the mermen feasting on starfish soup, meaning the Manderleys feasting on the Boltons, and the serving men are crabs, meaning the Skagossi.
Wow. Now I believe that. It's a lot. You're piecing together.
It is a lot.
I mean, if I was the lawyer for the defense, I would not bother with a defense. I would say, let the jury decide on this.
Right.
But at the same time, you've painted a picture that I could believe in.
Yeah, it's out there for sure. But you could, if you squint and tilt your head certain ways, you can maybe see how that could be what he's talking about. Now, why does the second half is why does Patchface and his gibberish make Melisandre so angry? Is it possibly, like you said a few minutes ago, prophet recognizing prophet?
Right.
She doesn't like the competition. Some believe that he's a prophet of the drowned god, as you mentioned.
Oh.
And maybe she hasn't killed him because Jon thinks, why hasn't she had him put to the torch yet? One word and Selyse would do it. I'm sure all it would take is a look and Selyse would be more than happy to put Patchface to the torch. But maybe it's because she fears this connection to the drowned god. She doesn't respect any other gods, so that seems hard to believe, but maybe I don't know.
Water puts out fire.
Oh, maybe. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I like it.
Well, that's really interesting. But Patchface is... I'm convinced that ultimately Patchface is going to be a complete red herring, which is appropriate for his sea obsession. That there will be nothing more to him than someone who lost his mind because he nearly drowned.
Right. That very well could be the case.
And Melisandre, it's just touching her nerve for some reason. It's like, just stop. Maybe. No. Okay. So Jon gives Alys away. of course, there were more close relatives available, but Uncle Cregan is rather unrepentant despite his sojourn in the ice cells. I got to think he's going to see the light here, because John's right. There's two ways out of that cell. One is to join the Night's Watch and give Alys your blessing, and the other one is to get executed.
Yeah.
Or right. Just freeze to death, I suppose, is your third option. But only one of those leaves you alive and kicking. And by the way, it would be Jon to the T if he managed to recruit yet another Jon hater to the Night's Watch.
It sure would. It's dangerous proposition for Jon. He's influential enough that his voice would carry some weight possibly around there. But Jon was smart to take him into custody before Cregan got to Castle Black, so that he can prevent any possibility of guest right. And Cregan calls his father the Lord of Karhold, which is just entirely disingenuous, because we all know, everyone knows, he's not the Lord of Karhold.
Yeah, I do wonder if that's. I mean, you know me, I'm basically free folk. I don't really believe in sort of laws of inheritance, but I will say that it is an advantage of having a high-born Lord Commander in that he understands things like that. Because if he was low-born, he'd be like, "Oh, apparently you're the Lord of Karhold. Let me hand back Alys to you," you know.
Yeah, that's true. Now, we learned from Alys that Arnulf, Cregan's father, sided with Stannis for two reasons, just to keep everybody up to date on where all these angles are fitting in. One was to betray Stannis at the behest of Roose when the time was right. And the other was to anger the Lannisters so that they would kill the true Lord of Karhold, which is Harry Karstark, the oldest son of Alys's father, Rickard, who is currently a hostage in Maidenpool. Now, I will remind everyone that Randall Tarley, who was in charge at Maidenpool, left town for King's Landing when Marjorie got arrested. So might that possibly open up an option for Harrion to escape and to cause some issues for Arnulf and Cregan? Cregan's got enough issues, but for Arnulf...
Yeah. I wonder if Randall Tarley is seasoned enough to take the high-value prisoners with him.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. He is smart.
He is smart, exactly.
Much of a terrible person he is.
Yeah,
he's very
smart and ruthless is what Randall Tarley is. Yeah.
But the daughter comes, as in the line of succession, the daughter comes before brother, which is why Alys is needed to make Cregan the heir.
Yeah.
So now Alys believes that Karhold will rally to her and Sigorn over Arnulf and Cregan. And I'd like to think that, because it's good versus evil, right versus wrong, you know? But I think some of that depends on the type of public relations that has been done by Arnulf and Cregan at Karhold. If it's known that Arnulf betrayed his nephew by siding with Stannis and forcing Alys to marry Cregan, then yeah, I think it's possible that they will rally to Alys. But if he's played the benevolent Castellan / subtle lord, and most of the people in Karhold are unaware of the machinations that he has been up to, maybe not. Maybe they wouldn't back a daughter and some random wildling.
Yeah. I gotta say, though, she's sympathetic. And if she arrives and she said, "Look, I ran away from these guys because they were trying to usurp the lordship here, and I didn't want it. And look, I've brought someone back who can rule alongside me," I would listen to her. I mean, what's Arnulf going to say? Well, we just wanted to make sure we were all Karholds in charge here. We weren't trying to force you into anything. Where's Cregan again? Oh, in the ice cells at the wall. So I guess the wall didn't see it that way.
Now, she does mention, or Jon mentions to Cregan, that 2 of the men that Cregan brought with him have already sworn their allegiance to Alys and backed up her claim of what Alys had been telling them about what Arnulf and Cregan were planning.
Right.
But that could also possibly be to save their own necks. Maybe after a few hours in the ice cell, they were like, no, she's right. We back her.
Yeah. That's a good point. As soon as they get home, they're like, and now I'll switch sides one more time to say that Arnulf was right. The conversation between Jon and Alys is kind of sweet. They talk about their shared history when she visited Winterfell. Then they also give us some Thenn history. Is that going to be your background? I was curious if Thenn history is going to be your background.
There's not much more to say. I looked into that, but
we can say what we need to say here then.
Exactly.
How it's isolated that, as you mentioned, they do mine their own tin and copper, and that they have lords and laws and have an inheritance and sort of like pass on the leadership down the family lines. And then also, and this is where she really sounded like Lyanna Stark to me, is where she was talking about preparing Carhold for the coming winter. I guess the Karstarks of everyone probably really, really focus on having things ready for winter. It doesn't matter how old you are, you're thinking about that because the Karstarks know that winter is harsh where they're from. They need to have stores set aside. So
absolutely.
But she seemed in charge, smart, and thoughtful during that conversation, for sure.
Very much so. And it just, as I was reading that section, I was just thinking about how the Northern Lords made a major mistake by taking all hands south. Now, surely they were confident in victory and wanted to show support for Robb and the Starks, but I feel like everyone should have left more farm hands at home to tend the crops. We know summer's not lasting forever. Yeah.
So, I mean, they have one advantage in the north, which is that the lands weren't ravaged by war like the Riverlands were.
True.
I mean,
they just needed the people.
If they left enough people, they could have harvested everything they needed to harvest. But as it happens, of course, the advantage of taking so many mouths to feed south is if it all goes pear-shaped, there's less mouths to feed,
Well, yeah. I guess there's that.
Yeah.
But it does seem like the Night's Watch is set to get an influx of older men and boys, because that's what Jon says.
If Alys is successful in taking back Carhold.
Very true. There is that caveat, yes. Yes.
Because, obviously his offer would extend to anyone, but he has only made the offer to Alys, and Arnulf would probably let them wander out into the snow to die, which is what the sort of traditional thing to do for Karstarks is to, or the citizens of Carhold, is the old and infirm wander off into the snow to die so that the younger have more food over the winter.
Yeah, and it seems to be the case throughout the north, because Jon tells the story about how his great-grandmother was a mountain flint, and that it's the same situation there. And so they kind of bond over that, and he says, don't let them do that. Send them to us. They won't die alone and hungry. Yeah. So that would be a win all around if that actually goes off that way.
So then the later part of the chapter, Jon hears that the ships have sailed to Hardhome, and for once with decent weather behind them. But that Cotter Pike has left in charge. You're going to have to help me remember the name here.
Glendon Hewitt.
Glendon Hewitt, who is no friend to Jon. So, again, Jon sending off friends in amassing enemies.
Yep, he learned that from his father, I guess. Because that's the same move his father made in King's Landing when he kept sending away all his people. So we know, we've pieced together and we've gotten information. Now, Jon doesn't know what we know about how Arya heard of the Lyseni ships that took the women and children from Hardhome as slaves. The ships were the Good Heart and the Elephant, I believe. So that would leave mostly men behind at Hardhome. So Pike mentions that the amount of ships and what ships are going on the journey, and he mentions the Bravasi ships, and they were part of the deal with Tycho Nestoris for helping getting him to Stannis.
Yeah.
So, so the Glendon Hewitt part, he's in charge of currently. He's the Castellan of Eastwatch.
Never trust these Castellans.
Yeah, I know, right?
What was the last good one?
Sir Roderick Cassel.
Roderick Cassel. That's what I was going to say. He was
been
the
a while.
last good Castellan.
And this Glendon Hewitt is buds with Thorne and was kind of one of Slint's henchmen. And you might recall after Jon led and was successful in the Battle of Castle Black and then held off the wildlings defending the wall, he was unceremoniously dragged from his bed by Hewitt to Slint and arrested for treason and thrown in the ice cells. So, yeah, you could see why he was a little bit leery about the choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Then Jon has an uncomfortable conversation with Axel Florent. There's only one type of conversation with Axel Florent, and that is the uncomfortable. Because he's the worst. He's misogynistic, he's boorish, and I can't decide if he doesn't care about to read the room or if he's just incapable of reading the room. Because every time he talks to Jon, it ends badly. Right. But he never changes his ways. He just keeps going on the same path. Like, yeah, I'll make him laugh this time by being horrible about Val.
That's very true. Yeah. He is not heir to his brother Alistair for Brightwater Keep. His nephew Alkeen, I think his name is, something like that, was heir. But then, of course, we know that Garland Tyrell was given Brightwater Keep by the Lannisters. So marrying a princess seems like a good plan, except for the fact that he continues, just like everyone else here from the South, continues to misunderstand what wildling princess means. And Jon's tired of explaining, she's not actually a princess.
If Sigorn had a sister, that's the one to marry. Nobody else.
Right. She's not related to Sigorn at all.
But yeah, he's just terrible, and his accusation to Jon is so ridiculous. You know, that his accusation to Jon is that Jon plans to marry Val for himself to strengthen his claim to Winterfell. Which makes no sense on so many levels, because it wouldn't. It would break his vows. Right. And he's shown no signs. And we know he's done the exact opposite of
He was offered Winterfell and Val.
Exactly. Yeah. But maybe that's the thing. Maybe Axel Florent got wind of that and thinks that Jon is working towards it. Or, maybe he hasn't completely rejected it yet. He's still thinking about it. And so he's keeping Val from marrying anyone else so that he's still got that option. Yeah, that makes a certain amount of sense.
Maybe.
Yeah. So the horn sound, and it's wildlings, or, it's just an answering horn and we don't know what the hell's going on. The whole marching band is fired up and nobody's got a clue what to do. But assuming it is Val, how is he going to protect her? Does she even need it? I mean, this is Val we're talking about. She's beautiful, but she's not. First of all, if she's brought Tormund Giantsbane to the wall, this woman is pretty accomplished and doesn't need no 15-year-old looking after her.
Right, she can handle herself, I'm sure. It looks like she honored her promise, if it is Val, to return. And not that she had a lot of options out there. I mean, there's a reason why they're all scrambling to get south of the wall.
Yes. Ha-ha, I'm free! I'm back, it's really cold.
Now, if this is also Tormund with her, like Jon believes, that's possibly many more mouths to feed.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Bowen Marsh isn't going to be any happier than he has been to this point.
Yeah.
Despite Jon clearly explaining why it's important that they evacuate all of the wildlings to south of the wall. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But Jon believes that's who's out there.
So you know the next leadership meeting with Bowen Marsh is going to say something like, "You want me to throw a feast for these people that just arrived?" And Jon's like, "That's a great idea, Bowen. Get on that."
Any marriages you want to...
All right. I think it's time for some spoilers. Remember, if you could join the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tiers at the higher levels, you get the spoilers. You can try any of the Sustainer tiers for a week for free. All right. That's excellent spoilers. Thank you, Mackelly. How about some background?
All right.
Do it yourself this time with your really found voice.
I know. I have been coughing a lot, but my voice is pretty much back to normal, I'd say. All right, good. And I appreciate all of you who have said that my voice wasn't an issue last week. I don't know that I believe you, but I appreciate it.
You know me, I would have told you.
Yes, right. That you would have. Okay, so as for background, you might recall that when Alys arrived at Castle Black, she mentioned to Jon that they were kin. And her uncle Cregan told Jon in this chapter that if Jon killed him, he'd be a kinslayer. And we've talked a lot about the Starks and Karstarks being related over the years, and we actually did do a background on it back in 2022. So I apologize for any bingers if you've heard this recently. Although I think that was like episode 81. So
okay, well, yeah.
if you've binged that many episodes that quickly, you are on quite a pace, and I congratulate you for that. But I think it's a good time to remind all of the non-bingers how these houses are related. So House Karstark is descended from Karlon Stark, who was a younger son from Winterfell. Possibly somewhere around 700 BC, Karlon put down a rebel lord, and for his efforts, he was given lands on a peninsula in the northeast of the north. So when you said 1,000 years ago, you were like spot on as far as...
I know my Karstark history. I listened to episode 81 over and over again.
It's your favorite episode. Yeah. Anyway, Karlon originally called the castle Karl's Hold, but before long, folks started calling it Karhold, and as the centuries slipped by, the Karhold Starks became simply the Karstarks. And there have been plenty of Stark-Karstark marriages over the years. These include Margaret Karstark, who was wed to Bernard Stark. He was the uncle of Cregan Stark, not Cregan Karstark.
Right.
And Bernard was reluctant to give up his regency when Cregan came of age. There's a whole thing. I believe we did a background on it about how that all played out. Now we have Alys Karstark, different Alys Karstark.
Yeah.
Married Lord Brandon Stark.
I was going to say, otherwise someone would have stood up at the wedding and say, I have a reason to object.
Right. Yeah, Melisandre didn't even offer that option. So Lord Brandon was one of Cregan's sons. And then we have Lysara Karstark. She was wed to Alys's grandson Artos. So you can see a lot of overlap in the names. And we can add Alys's older brothers Eddard and Torrhen to the mix, which are both prominent Stark names.
Yeah. All right, excellent. Comparison with the television show, there's not a lot to compare here because Alys is dropped. She doesn't exist. There is no wedding at the wall. I tried to think if that was co-opted into something else, but there isn't a wedding at the wall. There's no Karstarks in the ice cells. I think I don't remember exactly whether or not the Karstark storyline just sort of withers in the TV show, because of course it was important to Robb Stark's storyline that he behead Rickard, but then I don't remember if it just sort of fizzled out in the TV show. But this chapter is just not there at all. And similarly, I didn't find any pedantry here, but you tell me if you did.
No, I did not either.
News and notes.
So we probably should have discussed this ahead of time, but we are months behind on a sustainer call.
Behind.
Yes.
So we are overdue a sustainer call, so we're going to get one on the schedule as quickly as possible. A certain number of tiers of the Buy Me a Coffee sustainers will be invited to this. You will receive notification of the time, the date, and the place. And we'll have a fun chat. We always do. We really look forward to these. Don't let the fact that we've forgotten to do one for a while undermine how much fun we have. We really do enjoy
holidays. It was the holidays.
Yeah,
yes.
It's been a time. It has been a time. All right, let's conclude this one. Jon's done what he could do to save Alys. It's really up to others now to decide if that's going to be enough. I think he's given her the trump hand here. I think with Sigorn's and the Thenn strength, she can march back to Karhold and say, you know who I am. This is my home, and I am the lady here, and all others are trying to steal the throne. There's my husband. You don't have to like him, but he's going to rule with me.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, him and his 200 buddies here will have something to say about it.
And Alys has said there's not many left in Karhold to put up a fight in the first place.
Right.
And, Jon was worried when he went to Molestown and made his pitch for not joining the Night's Watch, but helping defend the wall, really.
Yeah.
That none of the Thenns agreed and went off to defend the wall. And he was afraid that they could cause trouble if they didn't buy into, the things that Jon was trying to sell them here.
In many ways, an extra string to his bow here of the reasons for choosing the Thenns. He's gotten rid of them from being a potential problem at the wall.
Yeah. You wouldn't think they would cause trouble for the Night's Watch now, but you also seems like they probably aren't going to help defend the wall anyway, because they're headed likely to Karhold. Maybe they don't head directly to Karhold. I don't know. But now, is Jon being a bit unfair to Melisandre, saying her vision of the girl on the dying horse was not right enough?
I think he's got reasons to be skeptical of her veracity, but he should at least doff his cap to her power, because she saw something that was unforeseeable. Yeah.
Who could have ever... It's not like I see Rangers returning.
Right, yes.
One horn blast being blown.
I heard a horn being blasted a certain number of times.
Right, this was pretty legit. This was a girl on a dying horse. Right. All alone.
But I do understand his... Yeah, but she chose to name that woman, that child, Arya Stark, because she knew that would make me react. But what did he do? He opened the doors to her. He was going to open the doors to her. If she was nobody, he was going to open the doors to her.
Yes, right. Yeah. That's kind of my point, is she was right enough, in my opinion, that when she's saying there are dangers around you, just at least listen and hear her out.
Right. I know what you're getting at. You're worried about him because he listens to the other parts of her prophecy, picks and chooses the bits where he likes to think she's just making stuff up, but ignores the one that's like, you are in danger.
At least increase your guard, something like that.
Yeah. I tell you who'd volunteer for that is Alys Thorne and Bowen Marsh. They would.
Yes.
They would arm themselves to their teeth and surround you.
Yes, right. You know who else would? And possibly a new member of the Night's Watch, Karstark.
Karstark, yeah. Have him as your personal bodyguard. No more fears. And of course, again, as we said, if Jon lets him take the black, then he has really added another powerful enemy to his midst.
Yeah, and so his proposition that he and Alys had discussed is that Alys is going to go back to Karhold, and she's going to say, those who betrayed me, the men can take the black, the women I will forgive. So if a handful, or who knows how many, Karstarks lined up at the wall, and Cregan Stark takes the black, that could be a real issue, because Cregan has the authority to poison the others against Jon.
That's very true. I hadn't thought about that, because you're absolutely right. 10, 12, 15 unhappy Karstarks, or their loyal servants, come to the wall to find that their former boss has just been co-opted. That's a little cohort of misery right there.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that being a problem.
And on the subject of other problems, if Tormund and his thousands have just arrived hungry and in need of shelter, then Bowen Marsh is in for another bad day.
Yep. On the plus side, more people to fill the castles that Jon is trying to rearm to watch the wall. But also more mouths to feed.
More mouths to feed, sure. Yeah.
But even more significantly outnumber the Night's Watch, which could become a problem.
But, as Jon will always say, to end the argument, less thousands to fight against when the others come. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, next time we go back to Essos and we visit our queen, our Khaleesi, Daenerys Targaryen. There's 3 ways that you could help us. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review. You could buy us a cup of Arbor Gold or become a sustainer at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal. There's a tier to match your budget and interests, and you can try any of the tiers for free for a week. Or you can make a donation directly to our cause at our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, well, one thing you could do is send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode show notes. Please just keep in mind we have no means of responding, but we do very much enjoy reading them, especially when they say nice things. And if you're interested in keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, I suggest you check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal, or on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.